I'm on Twitter now. I'm a twit. Come find me. Come twit at me. Let's be twits together. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Better Than Food Book Reviews. I am your host, Clifford Lee Sargent. This is a big one for me today. This is a big one for me personally because of the subject matter and because it's contemporary. It's very exciting. I know many people have been talking about it. I know I am late in the game, and I know that the author is probably tired of hearing about himself. But indulge me, because I enjoyed it very, very much. The book is an account of a Norwegian man's life at the age of 40. He's married, he has children, and his father has passed away. He's a writer. They're calling him the Norwegian Proust, and let me make this very clear. I am not calling him the Norwegian Proust. I'm not going to call anybody the anything of anything. He's the Mexican Stephen King. He's the Chinese Bukowski. He's the Moroccan Samuel Beckett. He's the Eskimo Hemingway. Alright, to be fair, I want to read that guy. If you catch me slipping up and you see me calling somebody the so on and so forth as the fuck all of Doodlebob, then, leave me an irate and blistering comment in the section below. Would you do that for me, dear viewer? I've been guilty of it already, and I've made the final and authoritative decision that it is fundamentally lazy, unfulfilling, and clarifies nothing. Let it be known here and furthermore. Anyways, so today I'm talking about My Struggle by Karl Ove Knausgård. He gives some spectacular interviews, so I took a little look from this one in the Paris Review, and he says, I want to write how I really think things are, instead of how I think you should think I think things are. For me, saying how I really think things are turns everything into banality and stupid things almost all the time, and that's the risk of the project for me. But then it's a realistic depiction of a man, 40, from Norway. If you read the book, you can see how these opinions, for example, came about, what produced them. Karl Ove Knausgård writes like Karl Ove Knausgård, because that's who he is, that is who he has become, and that is who he shall be until the day he dies. Which is much about what this book is about, as we shall see. Not his death per se, but death as a concept and the death of his father. Although there are some excellent poems in the beginning that are meant to serve as sort of semi-jaded, poetically rhyming epitaphs for his own gravestone. And if you aren't at least mildly entertained by that kind of gallows humor, then please step aside and move on, citizen. You will find nothing of value to you here. From what I can ascertain, which is not very much these days, the book is about identity and also discovering your identity through other people and acknowledging their identities and how they help to construct yours. This review is going to be long and all over the place. Okay? Again, indulge me. The stars above seemed to be lying at the bottom of a frozen sea. You see, already he's got me in the beginning with poetically simple similes. Shakespeare was right, brevity is the soul of wit. Okay, the book is a narrative of Karl's life at this age 40 in as honest a fashion, it seems, as he can tell it. A good portion of it is dedicated to he and his brother dealing with his father's demise from alcoholism when he was in a small town when Karl is about 29, 30. Many of you have been watching the channel know that I recently did something similar, though it was much longer of a process and certainly very different. The similarities, of course, nevertheless are beyond overwhelming. I sat and read this week. I didn't do anything else. I worked out. I ate in a window that was less than 60 minutes every day, once, and then read. I always talked to my dad in the car, right? This kind of chapel or sanctuary was the only place where he would really let up and discuss his thoughts, his insights or his opinions or his criticisms his good memories or his bad ones. One of my earliest memories of him was him getting angry in the car. And see, he was my stepdad. He raised me, but my real dad died when I was very young. But I remember my stepdad, dad, in the car so often that I found this line in Karl's book. What a beautiful line. When he's riding with his friend's dad, who's giving him a ride home back from a party when he's a teenager. There was something I had always liked about gliding through the darkness with the dashboard illuminated, beside a man who was confident and calm in his movements. That line carries so much weight regarding masculinity and trust and a man's relationship to other men, to his friends, to his father, to his son. I think it's very easy for many fathers to coast through life without feeling a real duty. The duty that they fundamentally need to possess to raise a child. Most fathers are children. This is my opinion, this is not Karl's. Anyways. And coming from a 26-year-old, I almost guarantee it's wrong. Don't listen to me. Anyways, one of the most difficult things in life that I have ever had to do was to tell my sick, confused, enraged, feeble, and cancer-ridden father that he could not drive his own car, that I had to take his keys from him. When Karl's a young boy being either scolded or mocked by his father, it always gets to him. There's something about the voice of your father that is so much stronger than logic or reason. It is stronger than the voice of God. No matter how much you know it's wrong, there is this knee-jerk response which is very, very difficult to shake. And for many, including myself, impossible to do without this unholy trinity of guilt, anger, and fear. Real, true fear that follows immediately in the aftermath, where you're nauseous and you can't even fucking walk. Tied into these very intimate moments of life that Karl is describing are these descriptions of Scandinavian landscapes, which surpass, not only the landscape, but also its relationship to the viewer when witnessing it. So, I grew up in the Northwest, and for a portion of it, in a very Scandinavian culture. Granted, a backwoods, watered-down, Americanized Scandinavian culture, but there's something there, especially in the landscape, that is not dissimilar. I can absolutely relate to the introspective moments of witnessing these expansive bodies of land and water and mountains and snow. The oceans, fog, rocks and cliffs next to the beaches, what am I doing here? This is beautiful. He's talking about, for a moment I was filled with the sensation of white snow against black water. The way the whiteness erases all the detail around a lake or a river in the forest so that the difference between land and water is absolute, and the water lies there as a deeply alien entity, a black hole in the world. So it doesn't even seem like I'm really giving a review as much as I'm giving sort of just an impression of what it feels like to read this. Because, the book is very simple, I don't want to say that what happens in the book is not important, because it is important. Of course it's important. But the connection it builds with the reader is huge. It's intimate and simple. It's humorous and painful and embarrassing. Embarrassing for me, not for the character, but because of the relatability I have. I'm embarrassed. This man's embarrassed. I'm embarrassed at loving it so much. Because being a young man with hopes and idealism and aspiration and desires, insecurities, enormous amounts of insecurities, living friends, dead friends, drifted off friends, girlfriends, ex-girlfriends, no ex-wives, thank God, hang-ups from childhood that have led to full-blown neuroses as an adult, questions about the right decisions, fond memories of the most banal stuff you could imagine from childhood, the constant feeling of having a bad memory, wondering if you were as cool as you thought you were, and then sometimes wondering if you were as stupid as you thought you were. Sometimes you find out you were far less cool, sometimes you find out you were far less stupid, though that's much rarer for me. The thoughts that make you want to put a bullet in your head. Shoot me now. Erase this and let me sleep, for the love of God, please. Please. Please let me sleep and be over with this. I'm tired. I know I'm foolish, I'm humiliated, I'm exhausted. And I'm done caring. I'm tired, I'm done. Those are not isolated feelings, you know. That is not just me. No. Apparently Karl wrote something like 26 pages every day for like 3 years. He had a whole bunch of diaries from when he was younger and he burned them all when he was 26. One of my favorite moments in this book is when he's a teenager and he's trying to take a piss after a night of very, very heavy drinking. So he's in the toilet and he's trying to do his business, and he can hear this girl that he just slept with walking around through the hallway, like singing softly or something outside. And he's trying to, for the life of himself, to just to take a piss, you know, so it sounds like he's actually doing something in the bathroom. So he's trying to force it, but of course the body will always win at that contestation. It will win every single time. And it does, and it's brilliant. His memory, if even 60% in this book is the truth, is obscenely enviable. His ability to remember the most nuanced details about seemingly superfluous elements, which actually have this gravity, you know, which is probably where all the Proust comparisons are coming in, because there are these digressions on how things feel, you know, when he's various ages. It is simple writing, but it is very difficult to write like this, I feel. Or to write well like this. Or maybe it isn't, I don't know. It doesn't matter if it's easy or not. It just has to be good. And Karl's writing is good. Real good. Whether or not Karl feels like he has achieved what he has sought out to do, which it may seem is to discover who he is as a person, what and why he is, how he came to be, and what makes him special, other than the fact that the man is going to age perfectly. I mean, I'm straight, but good God. If I look that good by the time I'm 40, man, he must be beating off these young adult booktubers with a foot-long stick of Norwegian wood. But I digress. Whether or not he feels like he's found what he's looking for, you know, whether or not he feels like he's found what he's looking for doesn't matter to the reader, right? In fact, it may be bad for the books, because then he's felt as if he's found it or solved it. But I don't think you ever solve it. I don't think, because it's a movement, right? It's this contestation of the limits, always, until death, right? So to feel like you've found it, or you've understood yourself, and to write books like this that are as profoundly impactful and effective as this is seemingly, to me, impossible. But I don't know anything. So Karl is indeed trying to search for a piece of himself that makes him special, no? A very, very vulnerable and respectable place to put yourself. So he's very courageous in that sense, but this, you know, what's very obvious all around the world and here in the US, to you and I, the reader, is that he has indeed illustrated that he is extremely special. I don't want to use any trite words, but the man must be aware that he can compose a sentence. But does he feel like he's special? Whatever that means, you know? I think feeling special is probably dangerous. But I mean, we must some of the time, otherwise we have no confidence in what we're doing, right? You know? I mean, maybe we do and we don't, right? Maybe when we're thinking about all the people that we are comparing ourselves to in our fields, in our work, in our relationships, in the world. Maybe when we're scouring Wikipedia at 4 a.m. trying to figure out who has failed the most compared to us. When they were born and how young they were when they were successful. Trying to determine if it's already too late for us. If we are indeed doomed to be relegated to the 9-to-5 dustbins and the dregs of society, the nameless, unrecognized cogs of humanity that fill up the graveyards as far as the eye can see. The unexceptional, the unsexy, the unprodigal anti-genius. The perpetually boring and stupid, who are so exhausted and weary that they've given up all hope of trying to do anything or be anybody. And then maybe we do feel like it's not too late for us to do something. But then when we see that prodigy or that talent, we become so vindictive and so jealous. Critical and temperamental of them and ourselves. We look for how much advantage they had, how much luck, their financial situations, this and that and the other, right? We place the blame everywhere except ourselves. And then we blame ourselves. Oh boy, do we blame ourselves. And then we don't get shit done, because then we're wrapped up in an ocean of self-loathing and insecurity, because we've just been saving that shit up for a rainy day. Then floodgates open, and then the process starts all over again. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one for whom that territory is all too familiar. But if I've learned anything from reading great literature, in this case Mr. Knausgård, it's that we aren't all that different, per se. We are, but we aren't. It's true, and it isn't. It's a contradiction. Feeling special would not help write good novels. Or maybe it would, secretly. I don't know. It might give you some great fodder for making the people you want to envy you deeply envy you. But again, the contestation of the limits, which is a phrase stolen from my favorite author, would be what is helping him. And what a simple method, right? The brilliance of this simplicity. I'd say it's genius because it is, but I don't think he would care for the term. Even if he secretly would, he wouldn't. You know what I mean? Would you? Would you want to be called a genius? Would you want to have to prove yourself to be a genius again and again and again? You know? And for all the humbleness and the gentle manner in which he carries himself, this very obviously attractive image of being a sensitive and weathered, if not deeply tragic and slightly reluctant family man, he's got one thick fucking skin and some giant, you know? Sometimes a book feels like it was lifted from my own consciousness. How do you do that in a fucking novel? And for those of you who have entertained my bullshit and tirades and listened to my reviews, let me tug on your ear. Not that I'm comparing myself, there will never be any comparison. It's impossible. I've already failed. For several years I had tried to write about my father, but had gotten nowhere, probably because the subject was too close to my life, and thus not so easy to force into another form, which of course is a prerequisite for literature. That is its sole law. Everything has to submit to form. If any literature's other elements are stronger than form, such as style, plot, theme, if any of these overtake form, the result suffers. That is why writers with a strong style often write bad books. That is also why writers with the strong themes so often write bad books. Strong themes and styles have to be broken down before literature can come into being. It is this breaking down that is called writing. Writing is more about destroying than creating. No one knew that better than Rimbaud. The remarkable thing about him was not that he arrived at this insight at such a disturbingly young age, but that he applied it to his life as well. For Rimbaud, everything was about freedom, in writing as in life, and it was because freedom was paramount that he could put writing behind him, or perhaps even had to put writing behind him, because it too became a curb on him and had to be destroyed. Freedom is destruction plus movement. But that's the appeal of my struggle. Everybody seems to feel as if it came from their own consciousness, you know? Their own thoughts or their own individual trapped mind. So the disturbing element is somewhere along the lines of, we're all like this, to some extent, you know what I mean? Myself, certainly. I watch men, and I'm jealous of men, constantly comparing myself to them, which is good sometimes, it would seem, when it fuels me. And when criticism comes, especially when it's smart, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, it most certainly hurts. I don't escape the cycle of admiration, jealousy, and cynicism. I don't know anyone who does. And I wonder about this when people are interested in me. Do they understand? It's the same thing. I don't escape, just like you. Knausgård has tapped into something heavy and universal simply by writing about his life in his voice. which is what anyone who is worth reading, it seems to be, is doing. Like Welbeck said, we have to want to spend time with them. That is what reading an author is. It's the desire to spend time with a certain person, whether it's fiction or not, whether it's transcribed, or poetry, There is no one who does not understand their own world. Someone who understands very little, a child for example, simply moves in a more restricted world than someone who understands a lot. However, an insight into the limits of understanding has always been part of understanding a lot. The recognition that the world outside, all those things we don't understand, not only exists, but it is also always greater than the world inside. And another one. The feeling this gives that the world is small, tightly enclosed around itself, without openings to anywhere else, is almost incestuous. And although I knew this to be deeply untrue, since actually we know nothing about anything, still I could not escape it. The longing I always felt, which some days was so great it could hardly be controlled, had its source here. It was partly to relieve this feeling that I wrote. I wanted to open the world by writing for myself. At the same time, this is also what made me fail. The feeling that the future does not exist, that it is only more of the same, means that all utopias are meaningless. Literature has always been related to utopia, so when the utopia loses meaning, so does literature. What I was trying to do, and perhaps what all writers try to do, what on earth do I know, was to combat fiction with fiction. What I ought to do was affirm what existed, affirm the state of things as they are, in other words. Revel in the world outside instead of searching for a way out. For in that way, I would undoubtedly have a better life. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't. Something had congealed inside me. A conviction was rooted inside me. And although it was essentialist, that is, outmoded and furthermore romantic, I could not get past it. The simple reason that it had not only been thought, but also experienced. In these sudden states of clear-sightedness that everyone must know, where for a few seconds you catch sight of another world from the one you were in only a moment earlier, when the world seems to step forward and show itself for a brief glimpse before reverting and leaving everything as before. It's exactly dead on. It's terrifying. I was walking back from the gym in the sunshine just a couple of days ago when I started reading this, and something akin to that moment suddenly hit me when I was in the middle of a crosswalk. All of a sudden, it was like this intellectual enema. I didn't search for anything on the faces of people walking around me. I just looked at the ground and I just thought and thought and thought and thought, and then I just came back and wrote this review. Something is happening, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if it's all of you. I don't know if it's everything. I don't know if it's this movement that is felt more or less by the world. And a movement, I don't mean political, but politics does play a role in it. But Knausgård, Paris, war, literature, something's going on. Something very large is at work. And we are all a part of it, especially now that we are on these platforms that connect all of us. It doesn't matter what color your skin is or who you like to have sex with. Something big is at work. And my struggle is a reminder in the best way. It's ominously, it's contemporary, and it feels important. It feels important. And again, for humor, some of this is so directly tied into my day-to-day thinking, it's scary. For example, I'll show you. Right after Karl's dad passes away, he's getting in a taxi and he's going to the airport. Even though the suitcase was heavy, I carried it by the handle as I walked into the departure hall. I detested the tiny wheels. First of all, because they were feminine, thus not worthy of a man. A man should carry, not roll. Secondly, because they suggested easy options, shortcuts, savings, rationality, which I despised and opposed wherever I could, even where it was of the most trivial significance. Why should you live in a world without feeling its weight? Just bought this fucking bag the other day for my trip because of those exact words, before I read the fucking book. I hate those little wheels. Fucking hate them. Fucking hate those little wheels. Feel the weight of the world. There I go. And we've gone so far already, let's just keep going. But when I was 24, I saw life as it was, and it was okay. I had my small pleasures too, it wasn't that. And I could endure any amount of loneliness and humiliation. I was a bottomless pit, just bring it on. There were days when I could think I receive. I am a well. I am the well of the failed, the wretched, the pitiful, the pathetic, the embarrassing, the cheerless, and the ignominious. Come on. Piss on me. Shit on me too if you want. I receive. I endure. I am endurance itself. I have never been in any doubt that this is what girls I have tried my luck with have seen in my eyes. Too much desire. Too little hope. All the extremes, sociologically, politically, emotionally, as many of them as you can. And then you reflect and you dial it back or whatever. You experience real life, a lot of real life, and then you calmly, not happily, but also not with reluctance, try to push the limits of what the medium can do within the parameters through which it is understood and accepted. And then, if you're being honest, something of a form emerges, which is intense, that essential intensity. It could catch on or it could be decried and shot at. Maybe both, because it's frightening. It is frightening to think that there is a you instead of merely an I or a we, as Karl put it in an interview when he was discussing actually Adolf Hitler. But it's fucking essential. It's essential. The you is essential. The you is essential in relationship to the I. Whatever, I don't know what else to say. Go read it for yourselves. And always remember what Karl's grandma said. Life's a pitch. She couldn't pronounce her B's. My mom always said that too. And actually my grandma probably said that once or twice as well. She could pronounce her B's though. Life's a bitch. Okay. But having Karl around helps. No question. It's better than food. If you enjoyed my blah 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 blah, then subscribe, hang around. There's a ton of great stuff on the way. I gotta hit the north. I'll see you guys next week. Maybe I'll make a video back up there in Portland. PDX. The Northwest. It was great seeing you guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Talk to you next week. Ciao.